Writer's Read by Lit Tracy. Getting that book in children's hands.
Hi, I'm Tracy Grice and welcome to the Writer's Read podcast. I'm a teacher and I'm really passionate about getting kids reading. And the inspiration for this podcast came from an American author by the name of Nancy Atwell. And she's a very famous quote that says, for students of every ability and background, it's the simple, miraculous act of reading a good book that turns them into readers. Because even for the least experienced, most reluctant reader, it's the one good book that changes everything. The job of adults who care about reading is to move heaven and earth to put that book into a child's hands. So this podcast is designed to do just that. It's not only a podcast that can help children and adolescents connect with books and authors, it's also a resource for parents, teachers, librarians, or really anyone who's helping kids to get onto their reading journey. So we're excited to be here live tonight doing our podcast, but in our normal format we would feature one author who we call a reader in residence, and what that author does is they read one of their novels out loud and then they stop at the cliffhanger, and the idea of that is that it entices children to want to get that book in their hands. And from there we have a student reviewer called Liv, and she reviews the book that's been read out loud. And then the author and I have a chat about their life as a reader, not a writer. So we look at all their strengths and struggles as a reader, their habits, and tips to get young children reading. Another really important part of our normal podcast is we have a children's literature expert, Rebecca Bird, who's sitting at the end of the panel here. And she's a real guru, as she knows if there's any book you're after, children's book you're after on any topic, she will have sort of heaps of recommendations at her fingertips. So she has a segment where she thinks about the work that the author has done, who's featured on each podcast, and she chooses books that they've written and recommends them to our listeners, because there's a good chance that if they like the book that's been read out loud, they might also like other books that have been written by that author. So we're also going to hear from Rebecca tonight. But tonight we're also lucky to have two fantastic South Australian talented authors joining us, Adam Cece and Kelly Hibbert. Kelly is a teacher and a picture book author, and she's also the South Australian coordinator for the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She also wears fancy pants. Unfortunately, this is not a visual medium, so you can see her fancy pants afterwards, but it also links into one of the books that she's written. We also have Adam Cece, who's an award-winning children's novelist, and he's written the popular series Huggabee Falls, amongst other books. And shortly we're going to have a chat with them about their life as readers. But now it's story time, and I'm sure everyone in the audience loves a good storybook. And tonight we're lucky to have Adam reading from his brand new book that's just been released. So Adam, would you like to set the scene for us?
Yes, well, I'm going to do a quick reading from Twin Spin, which is my new book that's just come out. Twin Spin stars identical twin sisters, Anna and Steph. Anna is a super organised TV reporter, junior TV reporter, and Steph is an impulsive rapper in an a cappella group. And one day Steph pretends to be Anna for the day to try and meet her favourite boy band, who's called Odd Socks, because Anna's interviewing them on that day. But when there's an accident, Steph and Anna are forced to keep pretending to be each other for a week. So in the scene I'm about to read out, the quick scene I'm about to read out, Steph is pretending to be Anna on TV, doing one of Anna's roving reporter segments at a place called Farm World, and Anna has given Steph this big folder of instructions, but Steph hasn't really read them, and she thinks she's getting the hang of this TV reporter gig. Now, Lucy says, flipping open the giant media training binder, do you want me to go over your walking route for the last part of the story? Oh, bah, I huff. My walking route? Does Anna really have to plan that out? How hard is walking? I've done so much preparation for this, sat a 3-hour exam and memorised all my lines for the cow milking bit, even made a funny moo pun. Did you see me? I'm killing it out there. Yes, but, Lucy says, pointing to the page, but nothing, Lucy, I'm all set. All I've got to remember is to sign off with, this is Anna Taylor reporting for Kids Beat on Channel 42. Before Lucy can object further, I walk outside and Clem hands me a microphone for the next segment. Let's roll, people, I say. I'm really getting into this TV presenter stuff. I'm in the zone, I don't want it to end. The camera rolls and I walk through the various farm world enclosures, full of deer and chickens and sheep, all crowding around me because they think I might have a bag of feed. I talk about all the things visitors can do at Farm World, like feeding deer and chickens and sheep. I haven't memorised the route I'm supposed to take, but I remember when I get to the end of the row of enclosures that I'm supposed to go into a paddock full of cows, so I start thinking of a whole lot more moo puns. There is a red flag on the gate, and I'm vaguely aware of a sign that reads danger. I unlatch the gate and saunter into the yard. Rather than go to the movies these holidays, get some fresh air and come down to Farm World, where you can experience authentic country life, all at utterly ridiculous prices. I smile. Sorry for my awful jokes, everyone. I turn, expecting to see the crew on the ground clutching at their splitting sides, but stop, because they're all standing back at the gate, gawking. Lucy is waving her hands wildly above her head like she's an air traffic controller. I notice all their eyes keep flashing towards something to my left. I turn very slowly to see a big black bull about 3 metres away from me.
Well, listeners, you know what you need to do. If you want to find out what happens, you need to get that book in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight we're making that easy for you because actually Adam has a signed copy to give away. But to win it, you need to be able to answer a question, so hopefully you're listening.
This is where we test to see if people are listening. The question is, who was the sound guy that Steph got the microphone from? Does anyone remember his name? Can't even see. Oh, we might have to ask a different question. Henry? No.
Try.
Steve, close. Should we go with a different
Let's
question?
go with a different question.
What was... we could be for the whole 20 minutes just setting out random names. What was the name of the place that Steph was doing the segment from? Yes. Who was first? Did anyone?
Someone at this table over here. Well
Yes,
done.
congratulations. Should we bring it over at the end?
We'll bring it over at the end.
We'll bring it over.
Don't fear if you missed out on a copy. Adam and Kelly both have books here. If you would like to purchase a signed copy of one of their books, please come and see us at the table after our segment.
Always carry our books with us everywhere we go.
Now we're going to jump straight into hearing about the lives of these authors, but not as writers, as readers. So we're going to get sort of an insight into their reading identity. So start with you, Kelly. Why is reading important to you?
Oh, goodness. I think because it's a really big question, but in short, I think because of the fact that it allows you to escape from reality. I really love the fact that you can dive into a book and everything else kind of just disappears into the background. And it gives you that chance to reconnect with yourself while you're reading.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Adam?
Well, I wish I could steal Kelly's answer because it was a good answer. Reading's always been important to me, and when I had to think about this question, it's a difficult one to answer, but it's always been a constant in my life, and I sort of thought back to when I first started reading really a lot, is when I lived in New Zealand for 2 years when I was a kid. When I was a kid, and I lived in a town that had 200 people in it, and we had a school with only 30 kids in it. I think there were like 5 kids in my class. And I remember I really just had one friend at that school. So when that friend wasn't available, I was just by myself all the time. And that's when I really started to discover books, and I could just escape into books, and I was never alone if I had a book. And I think ever since then, I was about 10 years old, I've just read all the time. So.
Okay, so reading's obviously something that both of you do as just part of your everyday life. So as readers, all of us have habits that we may or may not be aware of, and some of these might be seen as strengths, some of them might be seen as struggles. Sometimes they're kind of secrets that we keep as readers. So can you give us an insight maybe into some of your habits or some of your secrets that you keep, perhaps, about who you are as a reader?
Who's going to go first? I think the illusion is that when you're a reader that you... and this is what I would like to think is my reading habits, is sitting in a nice armchair with a coffee and Tim Tams, reading for a long period of time. But in reality, I'm just a real sort of read a page at a time sort of person. Anywhere I am, like on a bus, or every time I have a moment with me, I'll just read a page and just steal little moments from the day. I very rarely get big blocks of time to read in. I wish I did, but with 2 kids and work and all sorts of stuff, it's just not possible.
So you're a bit of a sneaky reader?
Yeah, total sneaky reader.
All right, how about you, Kelly?
I think as my kids have grown, your habits change. So when they were really little, reading kind of dropped off a little bit. But as they've got older, get to reclaim some of that time, and I'm probably a typical reader of sorts in that I have the pile beside the bed that grows and grows and, you know, one day soon it'll probably reach the ceiling. But from that pile I will read something most nights. I have to be absolutely dog-tired not to pick up a book. Sometimes I'll read 1 or 2 pages before the eyelids start to droop. Other times I'll get right into a chapter and have to finish that one before I can close the book and put the bookmark in. No doggies. But I'm what's the term? Oh, here we go, Rebecca. A libro-cubicularist.
Right. Tell us more.
Which is someone, if you look up the definition in the dictionary, is simply someone who reads lying down in bed.
Right. Yeah. So does that influence which genre you read before you go to bed? Like, if you're lying down, are you kind of an action adventure before you go to bed, or are you sort of
light books? You drop them on your head.
When we're talking about the adult books that I read, they're often on the face. Wake up like that. But when we're talking about adult fiction or adult literature, I have 2 different sides, if you like, that I'll try and satisfy. One of them is really light and easy to read, humorous perhaps, might even be considered like chick literature, or chick lit for short. And the other one is you sort of really meaty, get into some crime or investigation type stuff, law. I really love courtroom dramas, that sort of thing. So really 2 different ends of the spectrum for me.
Great. So you've got a bit of a diverse, reading life and the genres that you prefer to read. And so I'm thinking about children now can often get stuck into a series or a particular author. What advice would you give young readers who may find themselves on an infinite loop of the same kind of literature, and you want them to kind of have, branch out and have maybe some a diverse reading life like you do?
I think one of the things I talk to children about, either as a teacher or as an author visiting schools, is the fact that we can have various different likes, just like we do, for example, with food. And so for me, I read copious amounts of picture books. They're kind of like my chocolate. I devour them, quickly, and I love them. They're short, they're sweet, and so I can consume a number of them at any time. But then I can pick up a novel and really get into it and get lost in the story with the characters, or join the characters in the story. So, and that would be like, a smorgasbord for me, where I get to, pick lots of different little things over a period of time.
Sure.
And consume that. So I'd recommend to kids that they branch out so that they can experience different things, and they can pick up a book, and there's no rule that says you have to read a book from cover to cover. So they can pick something up and try it, just like they might broccoli, or perhaps not, and then decide after they've given it a try, rather than saying, no, I don't read that sort of book.
Yeah. So you encourage children to abandon books if it's not a good fit for them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because we, as teachers and educators, and also as an author, I advocate for not every book is for every child, and it is a matter of having the right book at the right time for the right child.
Great, thank you. Adam, you got some advice for young readers looking for their next great read?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with what Kelly was saying. Whenever I do school visits, I always say, put the book down as soon as you're not interested in reading it. 1 line, 1 word, even if you don't like it, just put it down. Because I think the worst thing is to try and make kids read something that they're not immediately hooked by. And I often talk about first lines and, how you have to, when you're a writer, you have to make first lines really engaging to hook kids into stories. Now I've completely forgotten the question. I'm listening to Kelly's answers.
That's all right. What tips would you give to young children to look for their next great read?
Well, I think what I do for young kids is I read to them. So parents, I really have to read to their kids, and not just read, all the same stuff or anything. Try and read a lot of stuff, because kids will get into stuff that you're reading as well. So I think it's really important to model the behaviour. If a parent's on their iPhone all the time, then probably their kid's going to see them not really enjoying reading and know they're just doing reading just for them at bedtime or something. But I try and model for the kids that I'm reading all the time and let them see me reading. And also when I read to them, I try and be really enthusiastic about what I'm reading and try and get them into it, try and get them feeling that passion for the book, and so hopefully it becomes infectious and they...
And a lot of people think that reading to children is something that's only done when the children are little.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not the case. So I have an 11-year-old now, and he still enjoys, every now and again, I'll just go into his room of an evening when he's getting ready for bed and he's relaxed and settled, and I'll say, would you like me to read some for you tonight or read with you tonight? And it's amazing how many times he'll say yes, because he can hear the story rather than actually having to use his brain power and his eyes when they're getting a bit tired. And he can just relax and listen to the story.
Well, adults love being read to as well,
Absolutely.
I think. I still love being read to as an adult. I don't think you ever lose that enjoyment of being read to.
Absolutely, great advice. Thank you.
Rebecca recommends.
So now it's over to our resident recommender, Rebecca Bird. Now, normally Rebecca is recommending books by our featured author, but tonight you've got something different for us, Rebecca.
I do, and it's interesting hearing what everyone's had to say tonight, because that sort of maybe changed what I was going to say or influenced what I was going to say. Because we're all here, I guess, in from different places. So Tracy works in schools getting kids to read. Adam is an author out there getting kids to read. Kelly is an author and a teacher getting kids to read. And I come from a teaching background, but I work in a bookshop and I get kids to read. So all of us together are working, basically our aim is to get children to read. So I was thinking today, what are the trends? Tracy said, maybe think about trends. What are the trends in children's books? And I looked at the shelves. This is what I always do. Whenever anyone asks me a question about books, I always have to just look at the shelves because that will give me the answer. So it gave me the answer. So I look at the wall of new release books that we have. So every month we get hundreds and hundreds of new release titles. Like it just never ends. And when I look at that wall of children's novels that come out, I would say that maybe 80% of them are series fiction. And that is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. So it's a good thing because series fiction from very young all the way through primary gets kids to read. It's something that is comfortable, it's something that is easy, it's predictable, they know what they're going to get. It's a good way to get kids to read. But this is where a whole lot of other people have to step in. Because once they finish that, now the question is where do they go from there? And that's really hard because then you're faced with a wall of books, amazing stories. Those standalone stories are the stories that are probably going to change your life, but you have to find them. And if you don't know how to find them, someone has to help you get them into your hands. So that is one of the things that I have to do, and it's one of the things that all the people on this panel have to do, is find those books, and we have to read them. And it's as simple and as hard as that. If you want kids to read, if you are the person that is wanting kids to read, you have to read. You have to read the books. You have to be able to share the books. You have to be able to be excited about the books. And then you will be able to get those kids to read. But like the panel was saying, the biggest thing I've ever learned as a reader is that if you are not enjoying that book, you do not have to finish that book. I always say to kids when I talk to them, there are going to be times in your life when you have to read a book. You are going to be in high school and you are going to have to read a novel. Whether you like it or not, you have no choice. But if you are reading for fun, it should be fun. So if it's not fun, you can stop reading that book and you can find another book. And there is always another book. And that's the beauty of libraries. I'm a massive advocate for libraries because you can just borrow and borrow and borrow until you find what you want. And once you've found what you want, it's easier. It's just finding what you want that's hard. And that is my job, and the lovely people on this panel, that is our job, to get that book into those kids' hands.
Excellent wisdom. Thank you, Rebecca. Well, that's just a small taste of what you can expect on each Writers Read podcast. If you're a teacher in the room, we also have professional development podcasts to hear from the latest reading gurus from around the world. We'd love you to subscribe to our podcast. We're available on all the platforms. Just like to give a special thanks to Andy and Liam at the Ozcast Network for inviting us here tonight. And also thank you to my fellow panellists, Rebecca, Adam and Kelly. Please support our local South Australian authors. Come and see us if you'd like to purchase one of their books this evening. And yeah, thanks for having us here.
Writer's Read by Lit Tracy. Getting that book in children's hands. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Writer's Read by Lit Tracy. A Dave and the Beanstalk production.